I will dominate, and this is Thorin's channel. The guy who, if I keep on associating with him, will get me banned on Twitch eventually.
Right, I'm here for another episode of Talk to Thorin, and my guest for this one is going to be APA, the technically current but also former mid laner of Team Liquid, presumably at this point. I mean, that's awkward to say. It's just obviously reality, isn't it? One quick question to start with is, obviously your Alias, you've told this story before, was you had to pick a name, and then you picked, well, the joke is, even on Twitter, always plan ahead, like, doesn't fit like the full characters, so it ends like that. But you took this alias you used in solo queue, because people just pick whatever name, always plan ahead, and you made it into APA and shot it down, etc. Right, I have a question that feels like an obvious question to ask that I never see anyone ever ask you, which is, why did you pick the name always plan ahead? Because I feel like your style of game isn't particularly like you plan ahead. It feels like you're super impulsive and do whatever you feel like.
I mean, I probably was just like, 11, 12, literally just searching Reddit. And I just wanted a stupid name, like a silly name. And then I was like, I just literally saw this name on Reddit from like another game.
Oh, okay.
And I just took it.
By the way, one thing I think is actually quite cool about your story, I don't know how much you've got into this, is you're not someone who, like, obviously if people look at your age, you're not someone who came into the league scene as like a 17-year-old and made it straight to the top. And you actually have been around a long time. Like, were you always aware of league esports and stuff, even when you were just like a challenger player and in the amateur scene? Were you always aware of the esports side?
Yeah, I mean, I was always aware of it. I was always, like, I'd watch like Worlds back, like 2018, 2019, around there. But I didn't really care for like going pro. Like, I had other aspirations during like my high school life and all that stuff. But then, yeah, I was always aware of it. And I would say like probably 2020 is when I really like started to like actually care about League and actually care about the esports scene.
Were you one of those people when you were a teenager? Did you always secretly think like, if I tried, I could be as good as they're not that much better than me? Did you actually think you could be a pro?
I mean, of course. Like, I always like. I've always had that like ego to myself, and I was just like, you play against these players in solo queue. I was like, fuck, man, this guy's not that much better than me. Like, I'm shitting on him in this lane. Well,
because the obvious question to ask is, you still spent a lot of time in the sort of amateur semi-pro scene. And I know, like, I mean, the funny thing is, aside from things like when they did the proving grounds and stuff, there's almost no real way to break through. You have to somehow get into that first competitive team. Did you never think, I mean, at this point in time, you're already like 18, 19, 20 year old, the ages are going up. Do you never think like there's no way in, or I'm never going to make it pro?
I was thinking for a while. It was kind of, to be honest, just doomed for me. Like, when I graduated high school, I told my parents, like, give me a year to go pro, and then if I can't go pro, I'll go to college. And just most students do. And then, like, I took that year and I didn't make it pro. So I genuinely thought it was just like over for me. Like, I was just going to go college. Like, I was privileged to go to Maryville University, and like still continue playing League. But if I wasn't privileged to go to them, like, I probably would have just went to like a local college and still played League, of course, but wouldn't give it my all that I could have.
Was it the case, by the way? Because one thing I noticed is, in your earlier days when you were playing at Maryville, if people don't know, Maryville is probably the most famous college to have some sort of connection to League of Legends. But it's one of the only ones that's like put something into the program, right? Can you give me some thoughts on that?
I mean, I love Maryville. Like, I still talk to a bunch of my friends there. Like, I love Clerky, the guy who runs it. Genuinely great program. I think like it is the best way to get scouted if you want to like go LCS. Like, I think, of course, like, I'm going in off season and I'm talking to a whole bunch of teams, and a whole bunch of teams are just throwing out like Maryville student names. They're like, I'm not really friends with those current guys now because, of course, it's a few years past my time, but it's like still just something that is so reoccurring. Maryville is just somewhere great to be if you want to go pro.
One of the other names that was in your team that did end up going to the LCS was obviously the top laner Niles. Can you give me some thoughts on him? Did you get along well with him?
Oh, it's funny because like, I don't know how much you know about him, but he is very, just put it bluntly, conservative beliefs.
I've heard he's a really Christian guy who's just like a bit traditional guy. And look, I know on the internet that got frustrated as he's the most evil guy ever, but to me, he just seems like a boomer almost,
Genuinely, he was like, it was such a polarizing person to be around because he was like the nicest person like I've genuinely ever met, and like, I don't know, just I took so much away from him as a younger guy because he's a few years my senior, and then you like go on Twitter and it's like people calling him the most evil person in the world. I was like,
It's true, I know.
fuck, man. Like, he was actually my roommate in college, and I was like,
He's pretty
he's holding
chill
the door for me.
when he's not on Twitter.
Cooking me, yeah, he's cooking me food. Like, he's holding the door for me. Like, he's a nice guy to me.
Fair enough. And then the other person, listen, I know this person quite well. He's been around my circle for a long time. It's obviously you were coached by Jensen Goh, who's the guy people will know from like Southeast Asia or whatever, but he's been in a bunch of places in the coaching world. Was he actually someone who was working full on with you guys? What was he doing? Was he doing remotely? How did it work?
For the first like half he was there, it was remote, but then like once it got deeper into the college season, he was in person with us and just was there like every day, same as us.
What was he like to work with? Because I can tell you, I actually do find him quite interesting. If people don't know, it's not a joke that he literally wrote like a book about League. Like he actually has his own perspective on it, like the whole like scaling versus gold. He has like his own like coaching philosophy. What did you think of him?
Yeah, I mean, genuinely, like he's just an insanely smart guy. Like just outside of the game, just insanely smart. And he does have a very, I mean, albeit like a little bit extreme, but a very intelligent viewpoint of the game. Like it's extreme to like the sense of how he wants us to play, or like how he wanted us to play and how he's wanted like his previous teams to play. But I'm always someone that's been a believer that you can play like however you want. Like League's such a great game where there's so many play styles, there's so much ways you can play and win a game that like I try to take it and like run with it. His game plan is like play style per se.
How did you get then? Look, I mean, maybe part of it's that you're on Merivale, which is the best collegiate program in theory to make the jump up, not least because actually you've got people like, if someone like Jensen Goh is also going to know people and then coaches talk and so. How do you get to the Team Liquid Challenger team then? How does that move happen?
So what was that 2022, I think? It was just, I'm like rank 1 on the server, probably like 3-4 times that year. And then I had like honestly decent showings in amateur. So like people knew about me. And then there was just like open tryouts that I participated in a bunch of. And I was honestly just really smurfing a bunch of the open tryouts. Like Team Liquid did their own open tryout. I was like 90% win rate in the open tryout. Just like, if you got me in your team, you pretty much won. And like, it wasn't just Team Liquid who offered me. I think I had like 8 academy offers that year. So I was, I guess like highly sought after. And then, I had a whole bunch of conversations with myself and even like Clerky. Like Clerky's the one I talked with the most about before going to academy. And it was just like, what's the best org? Like, what do you think the best org out of those like 8 offers? And of course, like the top was Team Liquid. So I didn't particularly care about like roster or money or anything. I just knew like Team Liquid was probably the best org that I could go to just in general.
The only thing is, though, I feel like people actually don't give you credit for how crazy it is that you were able to break into the main team. Because I want to remind everyone, the whole gimmick when they made that particular Team Liquid was they all speak Korean and they're all like ethnically Korean. So that, if anything, like you should be shower luck, bro. I'm assuming you don't speak Korean. So it's kind of crazy that they broke the roster for whatever reason. They subbed Terry out and you got a chance on that. Must have felt like it was never going to happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, of course, like I don't speak Korean. I only speak English. And then, like generally when I was promoted, it wasn't even in like the back of my head that I could be promoted.
Right.
It was just like a random scrim day for our academy team, and then like Dodo and Spawn just took me aside and they're like, "Hey, you're gonna start literally tomorrow." I was like, "What the hell?" And then it was a great experience, but it was also just hard because they didn't stop speaking Korean.
All right, okay.
They didn't stop speaking Korean at all. So like in the game, it was just, Pure 6 Summit, Yon and Core, all just speaking Korean to each other, like talking about the game plan through there. And I'm just like, with my headphones on, just listening to music.
Oh, you tune it out.
Like,
I see.
really
Okay.
Like, can't really do much because like I don't understand anything.
By the way, how long did that actually last for? Like, I'm assuming at some point in time they just started speaking English to you.
Literally the entire time I was there, they spoke Korean.
Okay.
Like,
so what do you do in the game? Because here's the thing, famously, people credit Team Liquid for having an amazing macro. How do you know what the fuck they're doing? Do they actually com some things to you? Do you just have to play around them? What do you do?
Of course, like Core and Yon speak English. So if I ever just found myself lost on the map, Core would just speak in English to me. He'd be like, "Hey, Baron's up in 20 seconds. We're gonna go to Baron. Dragon's up in 30 seconds. We're gonna fight Dragon." And I just go, "Oh, even though I'm bot lane, I guess I'll come to Baron. Maybe I'm top lane, but I'll go to Dragon, I guess."
Does that mean sometimes when you're playing in these Team Liquid laps, you're basically just playing off like feel for the game? Like you don't necessarily have a complicated comm system or something.
Yeah, I mean, that entire first split for me was just, I was just feeling out the game however best I could.
By the way, one thing I thought was quite cool about your story as well is obviously Spawn was your coach in the Challenger team, and then eventually he got promoted to the main team, and then you guys have been together ever since. Does he have some special sense of who you are? Do you have some connection with him?
Yeah, no, I love Jake. Dude, he's literally my biggest defender. Like, of course, like, I don't know if you recall back, but 2024 spring, like when I wasn't having the best spring until like playoffs, he was like my biggest defender. And then other times, you know, when upper management Team Liquid wasn't happy with me, it was like the person fighting back, and even like going into off season. So, like, I really respect Jake. You know, we're two very opinionated men, and like we didn't always have the same opinion about the game, so we definitely butted heads. But it was always from like a point of like passion, you know, passion of wanting to win, rather than, fuck, I hate this guy, I'm just gonna yell at him. So I have immense respect for Spawn.
When you first came in, that first split, not only I think people were a little bit resistant because of the whole, like, what happened to the whole speaking Korean thing? Because that was sold as like a gimmick as now, like, you know, Team Liquid would like catch up with the Koreans or something. And then the other angle is everyone was like, all it does is play Ziggs, and then you did just play Ziggs a whole bunch of times. So like at the time, I think people wanted to be like, you're just a one trick, and I think people didn't believe you were going to stay. Basically, what did you think of this first opportunity you got? Like was there any truth to that? Were you more of a specialist?
For sure, at the start, I was definitely a specialist. Like, you know, in Academy, you could do like kind of whatever you wanted, just because I was so much better than all the other Academy mids. But when it came to like LCS, you know, that's a big jump up. And then, you know, you couldn't. So I just stuck to what I was good at. But over time, like, I would say I was a specialist at the start. I wouldn't say I'm a specialist now. Like, for sure, there's still a couple of things I lack, but I don't think it's definitely nowhere near as bad as the start.
I want to ask you some questions then, because if there's ever anyone who actually has put a bazillion games on a champion, I think if people be remiss not to ask some specifics. So the question I have about Ziggs is this. I actually think it's one of those champions that people think is just boring, or like anyone can play it or something, because they just think of it like stalling out a game forever. But obviously that's not what the really good Ziggs players do. Like, I know some people's satchel charge usage is different. You can get the solo kills. You definitely would play it way more aggressively. What is the secret to how you play Ziggs, do you think? What are you good at? What do you like about it?
I think he's just one of the champs that just breaks the game and can like push the game forward, of course, like with his W, and then just like his siege potential, like get solo code or whatever, like you lose tempo in the game, and then all of a sudden your top tier one's gone. It's like literally no other mid lane champion, like no other mid lane mage, I guess, can do something like that. And if you're able to just play aggressive, you know, play in the enemy's face, get a little mid pro, move bot lane, suddenly bot turret's dead. Get a little mid pro, move top, suddenly top turret's dead, and it's just like, fuck, like what other champion can do that in the game?
Because the other thing I would say is, like, I think a classic problem people have as well when they hear someone's like a one trick is this isn't solo queue. Like, everyone tells me who's a coach, like, Ziggs is a champion where it's not just the player has to be able to play it, the team has to be able to play around it and know what the concept is. And obviously in your team, I can imagine it has like extra uses if you're a team that's already good with macro.
Yeah, I mean, we just like, of course, like, generally our macro was pretty good. And then like we would apply that macro to Ziggs. We'd be like, hey, if we only need 10 seconds on the start instead of, you know, the normal 15 or 20 seconds or whatever, so we have so much extra time, or like we can split numbers this way. And of course, since I'm like so just in tune with Ziggs, of course, it's like I can even practically call for like, you know, special plays that only Ziggs can do.
By the way, one thing I always find interesting when someone's put a lot of hours as well is sometimes another player who might be like one of the best in the whole world plays that champion, and they might still win on it because they're like, I don't know, Chovy or something. But it doesn't mean they play it that well, or they might not know all the like nuances. Who's actually a good mid lane Ziggs in your opinion? Who impresses you?
I think Knight, honestly. Like I've gotten the pleasure of scrimming Knight like a ton of times. Like most recently during MSI when he was in America. And like, you know, you're sweating your ass off versus all the Eastern teams. You're trying your best to even just win a single scrim game. And, you know, of course I have to like bring out Ziggs because it's like basically a stage game. And like I don't think it comes to a surprise to me, at least. Like I performed well in those scrims versus him. And he's like over this year started to pick it up, and other players have started to pick it up. So before me, I would say it's like definitely just a champ that no one played, and now it's like you saw Chovy play a little bit. Knights played like a handful of games now. Caps has played it. JoJo's played it. Like all these, names that are in the GOAT conversations for their respective regions.
Why do you think it's become a champion that's now also like often at times a bot lane pick? Why is it often like the ADCs who pick it now?
Well, I think like you did say, it does just have that wave clear aspect. Like once you reach a certain like threshold, I guess in the game, like you just start one-shotting waves, and then just your support and jungle can go play top lane when you're wave clearing mid lane relatively safely, and you can even provide a little bit of help by ulting up there.
Okay. Right, I have a question for you that can only sound rude, but maybe that's just who I am. Right, in 2024, when the team got really good, and obviously, like especially that spring playoffs, it all came together. And then after that, actually, a lot of people said this was the best Western team and praised the macro and all these other concepts. One of the things that I always thought was interesting was I also think it looked like Team Liquid had some of the best drafting, but it looked like a lot of it was based around like specifically getting you onto your champion, and that was like almost like if there was a tree. By the way, I would say Team One does it with Faker in the modern day. There's times when he only has like 3 champions he wants to play, and you feel like every draft comes out of that. They start with that as the idea, and then they have the choose your own adventure after you've picked the Orianna or whatever it is that he's going to play. Is that true? Is there any truth to that? Is that just how the meta happened to go? What would you say?
No, I'm definitely a very just opinionated person. Like, I'm extremely confident in just myself and my skills, especially last year. And so I would just tell my team, like, hey, if I get this champion in this matchup, we're going to win the game. Like, I'm going to smash mid lane. I'm going to take my pressure from mid lane, dump it everywhere else and get you all lead, and then I'm going to carry the game. So, it's no secret that I'm just, like, insane at certain champions. And, when I would get those champions, like, I mean, maybe not this year, because I lost some win rate,
Sure.
just losing games, but, like, last year I was, like, 80-90% win rate on Ziggs. Any game I got him. And it was just, like, you give me this, we're going to win.
Another thing is as well, I feel like maybe now in Fearless people just understand you have to play more stuff anyway. But back then, I actually think as well, what was making your approach unique is, to me, you were doing more of the LS approach of like, I just think this champion's either insane or I can use it in a way someone else can't. Whereas I do feel like most pros, I don't know what your opinion is, I feel like most pros do have what you call the global meta thinking, and they just look whatever Chovy and Knight are playing and Faker, and they just play whatever they think is the strongest in Korean solo queue, even if it's not their best champion. Is it true, like you say, do you think it makes more sense to play the thing you're extremely good on, whether that's the most meta or not? I mean, for example, when you say that, are you always trying to take the favourable matchup, or you opt into the bad matchup because you know it better than the opponent? What would you say on that?
I mean, I said a little bit earlier, but I think genuinely the greatest thing about the game is, like I said, there's so many ways to win. There's so many ways to have an impact and do things. Like, you look back to, I mean, the most like notable ones that come to mind is like 2019, either with G2 or with FPX. Like, Doinby's literally just playing Malphite mid. He thinks Malphite mid was probably the best champ to play that game. Or like, G2's playing like Pike top when I don't think anyone else was playing Pike top with Mobies in that time. Like, I think once you like get so good at such a playstyle or so good at like certain champions, you can like challenge the best. And then like there's also the other perspective of, like, like me personally, like knowing who the player I am today, am I actually going to beat Chovy or Faker or Knight or like any of those goats on a 0 unit? Like, let's be completely honest. The answer's probably no. But like, can I maybe beat them on Ziggs? Can I maybe beat them on like Asol or like Nico or other champs that I'm very specialized into? I would say it's like at least a higher chance than the others. And I think that goes for like a bunch of other players. Some players have their own like niche pick. Caps is playing, I mean, maybe not as much anymore niche, but like Caps was playing Anivia.
Sure.
And he seemed to be extremely proficient on Anivia this year. Like I said, back in 2019 when Doinby is just playing whatever roaming mid you can find, like Nautilus or Malphite, Wonder's playing Pike top, Nico top, all types of fancy things that, like I said, I think that's the best part about the game. You can just like once you find that like creative way to play the game and win, it's honestly increases your chance to win.
What about, let me ask about Aurelion Sol then, because obviously the joke is you already played that anyway, and then it just last year became an actual real meta champion that like almost every good mid laner played by the end. I mean, some of them were a bit slower to pick it up, but I think everyone saw that at certain points of the game it gets busted, right? What have you always liked about that champion anyway? And why was it so strong last year, do you think?
Well, it was just a one trick on that champion, like actual solo queue ASO one trick. Like that's who I was like when I first got challenger. So like I just dumped thousands of.
What's fun about that? What do you? Because I feel like most mid laners hate that champion. What do you like about it? What's enjoyable about that?
I don't know. Just literally when the champ was released, I was like, "Fuck, this is a space dragon. Space dragons are fucking cool."
Okay.
Like literally just, I'm like 10, 11, 12 at this point.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I was just like, "Fuck, this is fucking sick. A fucking cosmic space dragon. This guy looks dope. I'm gonna play this champion." And then, like, for last year, why the champ just came good, I think, and like on top of the rework, it was just you're an incredibly scaling champion, but you had just an insanely strong for some reason. Like, Riot, of course, nerfed the hell out of it since then, and you haven't really seen much ASOL.
Yes.
But, like, if you go back and watch, like, ASOL VODs, you'll literally see him step up to in your wave level 1 and just press Q and hold down Q, and he would just win the trade. And it's like, what the fuck? This is a champ that's supposed to be the Cassidy and Kale type champions, and he's smashing me in lane.
By the way, do you have a theory as to why good mid laners think? But it is this way, the only comparisons I can give is if anyone knows the history of AD carry. For some reason, the AD carries always also do that with Sivir. They all just think it's like, I'm a real ADC, so I don't just pick that. It's just whack. It's just winning because it has a good win rate. Like, I think because of the period last year when Aurelion Sol became really good, like I say, you just played it immediately because it was available. But then the others, it's like you had to win enough games that they were like, maybe I should play that. It looks pretty broken. But they were all like hesitant to play it. So do you have a theory as to why people don't like it? Or do they not get something about it, do you think?
Well, I think a lot of people do tend, like you touched on it a little bit, do tend to just copy like they're extremely good pros, the Chovies, the Fakers. And they weren't playing it at the time, so like, why should I play it?
What about, I think it's funny, people always mention those two with you, but at least from pro play, I feel like there has to be a third added, and surely the third is Taliyah, right? Isn't that the other one that's like right in your wheelhouse? Again, you could pick it in a million different scenarios and spots, and there's something about that champion also, as you have a feel for it, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, it literally just dates back to when I was a solo queue player. Like, the 3 champs I played was ASO, Taliyah, Kled, and those are literally just the 3 champs I chose. I don't know why I chose them. I just chose them, and like I still often think like how lucky I was going into the spring playoffs last year, and the meta champions, in my opinion, were ASO, Taliyah. Literally my 2 one tricks when I'm playing solo queue in like 2018 or whatever, like not even caring about pro, are the champs that are like, in my opinion at the time, were the strongest champs for mid lane.
Sure. By the way, I have a question about that champion. That kit, to me, has always looked really interesting. There's so many things you can do with it. But I feel like, again, there's so many pros, even some very good pros, bro, who seem like they don't use the ult properly or they don't have the concept of what do you think people miss about this champion? Is there like a core concept that you have to keep in mind?
I mean, to be honest, not really. She's a pretty simple champion. I don't know if she's that, like, difficult. You put a wall in through half their team, put 3 members of this side, 2 members on this side, and it's not the most difficult thing. And then, you have a support, Nautilus or Rail, Leona, whatever it is, or like a Vi. You just wait for them to press their CC spells until you press your WE.
Is that a champion where you actually do think a lot about when to use the ult? Do you just say fuck it and send it?
I mean, you would like look at like what's happening on the screen and be like, I'm going to wait till this happens. But a lot of times it's such a high impact spell. If you at least aim it like relatively well, it's going to just do something good for you.
Right, I'm now interested to ask about some of your teammates with the fact that at the start they weren't even speaking English to you. So the question I obviously have, first of all, is what it's like to play with CoreJJ, because I feel like people do give him a status among the players that have been imported to the LCS that no one else gets, which is that if he's at his best, people do give him the status that Inspired gets now, where they go, if you're at your best, even in that league, which people don't think is good, they think it's possible you could be as good as an LCK top player, and you might just be like the guy who's just the one that stands above the others. Is he got something unique to him from talking to him and playing with him?
I don't know if it's even unique. I literally just think it's just such a desire to really be the best, and like, like no one else will akin him to it because of course he went to NA and it's hard to have like international results in NA. But like in my head, like I compare him to like Faker with how like longevity his career is and just how much he still cares. Like, it's been over a decade now. He's won worlds like honestly nearly a decade ago at this point, and he still comes into scrims and comes into practice every day and still like gives it his all, gives all his passion, and gives all his time, gives everything at this point. So it's like definitely when I came in as like the rookie he was definitely the best, just like veteran player that you could ask for.
Right.
Just is such a student of the game.
Can you give me some examples? Because I actually know that despite that being the stereotype of Koreans, I've heard some of them when they go to NA, they give up eventually, mate. They just come in as much as other people, or they do the minimum, whatever. I've heard he's, like you're alluding to, I've heard this guy's like super diligent. Like he is the person like doing the VOD reviews. And he was the one organising that fucking Champions in houses and all that shit at one point in time. Like, what can you give me some stories about CoreJJ?
He'd always just work incredibly hard. Like, of course, we, a normal practice day, we show up probably like 10 a.m. to, get ready, eat, drink caffeine if you drink caffeine. And then all of us would stay till like, midnight, 1 a.m. And he would quite frequently often be the latest person here. And then, in between his solo queue games, because sometimes NA solo queue gets a little bit longer queue times, he would just like drag me aside or drag you on aside, like anyone who was like not in the game. He'd like point at a scrim time and be like, hey, at this point, 20 minutes into game 2 of our scrims today, what were you thinking? What was happening along here? And then, just something like that. It's like, fuck, man. Like, who knows how many people are like actually putting in the amount of time he is? And on top of that, he's like, not just brainlessly, like, just queuing up solo queue, winning the game, queuing up solo queue, losing the game, queuing up solo queue. He's like pulling up VODs of our scrims day and like having just like connection conversations about it, like what we think about the game here, what we think about the game here, what he thinks about the game here. Like when I say it, he's genuinely like a student of the game. He like watches pretty much every LCK game that he can. Like when he does have time, he watch LPL, but don't get that much time. And then he'll be watching our scrims literally back every single day. And it's like, I don't know, it's so insane how hard that guy works still after 10 plus years playing the game.
What about then, and I realize this is a bit like, actually I have one last CoreJJ question, which is the obvious one, which is, he also just has some sort of like crazy sixth sense for like engaging in the game, right? He must just see the game different to other people, mate.
Yeah, he just like, you'll be in scrims and he'll just, like, how do I say it? Like when Core was on an engaged champion in scrims, no matter how trash the game was, no matter like how far behind you are, he always had that like moment where he'll find something. He'll find something no matter what. And like when he finds that something, as long as we can follow up, and if we're too far behind, we're too far behind. Like that's just how some of the times the games goes. But he'll always find that like literally that like clutch comeback moment where that's fucking hard for so many players to find.
Obviously, your first year, because the team turned it around, you actually got to go to Worlds. You got to go in 2023. Now, look, it was all the rough ones. Like, it's not that you had that hard a job. Your team won. Yeah, but also, I think when you go and look at that, like, for you at least, it was your first split, though. Like, it's different for the others, maybe. Like, did you take positives from going to Worlds? Was it a bomber still to go 0-3? What was it like?
Now that Worlds was pretty trash for me. I won't lie. Our roster was definitely like very mental boomed, and then you have to understand like everyone's speaking Korean. Like we're literally in Korea.
Oh, sure.
So like
you're just isolated, I guess, right?
Literally so isolated. Like, and then of course I can't understand the language, but like you can read body language, you can read like facial expressions when people are talking around you, and like none of it was happy, cheerful. All of it was doom and gloom. So it was definitely a pretty miserable experience. But like the game aspect was just insane. It was my first time playing Faker. Played him a couple of times since then as well. First time scrimming all the top like LCK, LPL teams, and it was like, I still think it was such a great pleasure to get that, literally just to get that experience of playing for all the GOATs.
Do you have any good Scrim stories from that world? Because I'll give you an example. I remember what put me on the track of like everyone has a weird Scrim story is I remember way back in the day when the first T1, once asking like Mithy, oh, what happened when you scrimmed against like, I don't know, the Samsung bot lane of like Imp and Matter? And then he told me like, oh, they would just do stuff like purposely pick the worst matchup into us so that when they destroyed us in scrims, we were just like, oh, we're total trash at this game. It's like, fucking what? What's the point of that? So like, is there anything mad like that? Did any teams try and flex on you or do some mad shit in the scrims?
I remember losing to Showmaker Vi in scrims, and of course, like Vi's definitely not a mid laner.
Okay. Holy shit!
And he would,
how does that work?
Like, we're probably like 0-4 in the scrim day so far, going into like the last game, and like he's of course just shitting on me. Like it wasn't even close, the difference between him and me at the time. And I know I think they were just like pretty much trolling at the end. They picked like Vi early on in the draft. And then they put it mid, so I was like, oh, I'm going to get a free win. I'm pretty sure he's solo because me level 3 or 4, and I'm just like so mentally defeated, and he's just smashing me for the rest of the game. So that's probably the funniest thing I can think of, is just Showmaker smashing me with Vi mid.
By the way, being as like I said, in the LCS, you were just picking the Ziggs and stuff like that if it was available, and then you went to this Worlds, it went really badly. Did any part of you worry, like, God, they're just going to fucking kick me out of the team and get someone who speaks Korean? Did you ever worry about that?
Oh, for sure. Like, I genuinely had no clue what was going to happen. Like, going from 2023 to 2024, I was lucky enough to, of course, stay. But like, genuinely, I had no clue. I'm pretty sure they like looked at a few other options. Either like the options didn't work out, or like too much money. Like, I don't actually know. Still to this day, but I was for sure worried. I was like, fuck, man. Maybe that was my one and only shot at Worlds potentially. But I was lucky enough to get another year. Get another 2 years, actually.
Because I feel like people don't actually credit enough how crazy the story for Liquid is in that spring split. People just remember now. This is the problem I always think with tournament formats, is if someone goes onto Gamepedia, they're just going to see you won the split and go, oh, awesome, they were the best team. It's like, not until like the fucking final, mate. Like, in the group, it was mad dodgy. You guys had like the 50% win rate. Then you went into the playoffs. Like, actually, sure, it was like a close one, but FlyQuest beat you guys. You had to do the low bracket run. Like, it wasn't until that dominant finals most people ever even thought in their brain Team Liquid might be the best team. In fact, Cloud9 was supposed to be better. It was a whole bunch of teams. What was the story of this split? Did something happen throughout the split? How did you guys go from like just all right in the regular part to eventual champions?
I think it was just, honestly, we worked really fucking hard that split. There's honestly no other way to put it. Like, we would say probably like 14 to 16 hours in the office every single day. Everyone having like productive conversations during and after scrims about how to view the game and like how everyone thinks about the game. And literally, honestly, it was just so much hard work and so much like passion from all 5 like members of the team and like all the coaching staff that I think is what made it work. I think like I found like my form, and honestly like maybe like a little bit of luck with the meta, like I was talking about like with Taliyah being so strong during the time. But we all just, like I said, we all just put so many hours in of having like just all these conversations about how we view the game and trying to get that aligned. Like, of course, everyone remembers like FlyQuest now, but FlyQuest was still as good as they are now. Maybe like a little bit worse because, of course, it's been a little bit. But that spring, so of course, this year was complete trash. But once upon a time, we were a fucking good team.
Sure. By the way, if you're someone who was around the scene and you were aware of esports, even if it's the end of his career, it has to be still cool to win an LCS final over Jensen.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, of course, like, him and Bjergsen were, like, the 2 mid laners that, everyone looked up to in NA. And then, like, pretty much my first full split, I go, like, back-to-back series against him. And, like, he's, like, personally trash-talking me. I don't know if you recall.
You think
but,
he
like,
thought you were bad?
Trash-talking me. Yeah, just calling me dog shit at the game. And, like, of course, at the time, it pissed me off a lot. But, like, now it's like, man, that was kind of like an honor to, like, get trash talked by, like, one of the NA GOATs.
By the way, along those lines, did you actually get a sense that when you guys won the championship, it gave you personally some sort of respect or validation? Because I do think before that there were other pros, I'm sure mid laners as well, who just thought like, oh, it's just a two-trick or whatever, or oh, it's just on CoreJJ's, whatever excuse they need to give. When you won the championship, do you think it changed something?
Oh, of course. Of course everyone plays the game and everyone has their own thoughts, but everyone also just looks at the results. Like everyone looks at Faker having, however many championships he does at this point, like potentially one more come Saturday night. And they're gonna say like T1's the best team, even though they weren't the best team at all, in my opinion, this year.
Sure.
So like, I think, a lot of people just look at results and say like, this guy's pretty good now. And I think that's what just happened with me. It was just like, you win that finals, then suddenly like everyone's respect for me just went, a little bit up and up and up.
Did it change for you though? How you saw yourself and thought of yourself?
Oh, for sure. Like, I mean, like I always still think about like how I'm performing and like how I'm doing and all that stuff. But then it was just a massive, just confidence booster because, you don't know how you're going to do in your first year, your first debut split. And then you make Worlds, your first like half split on a team that doesn't even speak English. And then the next like real split on your first real team, you win the split. It's like, damn, like I might be pretty fucking good.
Right, this will sound weird, but when you guys went to MSI, on paper, the only team you beat was Fnatic. But I think if people go back and watch the TES series, even though they 3-0'd, and then even the T1 series, these games are way closer than people would probably realise. Like, people would assume, oh, these teams just smashed it. No, like, there's moments in these games where I'll bet if you pause it and ask the LPL and the LCK team, they'd be like, yeah, we could have lost this, or it was getting out of control. What did you think about that particular run? It seemed like you guys were in it.
I honestly think we were... Because that was, like, lane swap meta. And I think during that meta, that specific lane swap meta, I think we were genuinely the best lane swap team in the entire world. I don't think like anyone else held a candle to our team during that. So I think a lot of it was just like we would create these insane advantages, these insane leads from our version of lane swapping that we know other teams were copying ourselves off of. And like, maybe the TES series wasn't the closest, but then you like pause, like you said, you pause at some points in the TES series. Like we weren't getting dumpstered in lanes or anything. We weren't getting dumpstered. It was just, it'd come, 20, 25 minutes in the game where the LPL team, they would team fight us. And, sadly, we're still a North American team. Like, we don't have the best fingers to match up to the LPL pros. And they'd completely just smash us there. And then, like, the Fnatic series, like, I don't think they were even, like, a close level to us as a team, We, like, very easily swept them in. And then, even though we lost to T1, it was so many games that didn't come down to how you normally see or like perceive like Eastern versus Western matches where it's like, oh, like some players just get shit on too hard and then you can't play the entire map and the game just ends at 25 minutes if they ever get a goal lead. We were in a roller coaster of games. I remember, I think it was game 2 that we lost. That was like, fuck, man, maybe if one person didn't do this play, maybe I played a little bit different, yada yada. Like, we genuinely could have won, and like, I don't know how much you paid attention to EWC, but EWC was
that one was even better, bro. I think you almost did win that one. Yeah. That was pretty fucking good.
I think we almost like 2-0 T1, who went on to win the tournament there.
By the way, it's got to be a mad, like, just ego boost also to actually have like a fucking Ziggs carry game versus Faker.
Yeah,
that's pretty dope.
Like, not even just a Ziggs win, just honestly just a win in general. Like, how many Western players other than like, maybe like Caps, I guess, can say they've won or even taken games off of Faker? I've only won 2 games off Faker my entire life, but that's like 2 more than the rest of everyone.
Sure. No, by the way, I actually do think, it's funny, everyone does delete EWC because back then it was like the first year, but I actually do think that tournament was the one where like, look, who knows what would have happened in the final, but there's a real world where TS was in the final of that tournament. Team Liquid, sorry. Mm-hmm. Team Liquid.
Yeah. Oh, we always told ourselves like that was the tournament we could have won. And whenever we were struggling this year, like genuinely, Spawn would always go back to like VODs of those games, VODs of like specifically the T1 series, and like showcase us like, this is how we were so good. This is like what we're doing that was genuinely top tier at the time. And like maybe we can get back to like replicate that. Of course, it didn't happen this year, but if there's like one or like two tournaments I'm incredibly proud of, like for myself, is just MSI and EWC tournaments.
By the way, when you said that you guys were the best at the lane swap meta, where is that coming from? Is some of that Spawn? Is some of that CoreJJ? What was informing this strength, do you think?
Well, when we did Spring, or when we played Spring Finals, lane swaps wasn't, at least in NA, wasn't a thing. It like kind of became a thing in Europe and a little bit of LPL. And then when we went to China, we boot camped probably like 3 weeks before MSI, give or take. And every team in scrims was lane swapping. Literally every team was lane swapping, and we had no clue anything about lane swaps. So we probably spent like the next 2 weeks through like, because a bunch of us had COVID, like Rainover, me, Umpty, I think Yon Impact got COVID, like literally everyone got COVID. You know, Spawn got to China a little bit late because of visa issues. But regardless, we like every day we literally just talked about lane swaps, and every day we talked about like how we think we should lane swap, like the types of lane swaps we should have. I remember there was like 2 types of lane swaps we had. We had an A lane swap where Impact like just stays bot lane, just tries to tank them, you know, maybe stuck on like Cassante, because he was a lot that tournament. Or there's a B lane swap where like him or Core will come mid and like try to gank mid, because that's like part of like what was happening in lane swaps, you know. Enemy top support would just run mid level 1, try to fuck you. It was generally just like so many long conversations about the game, and it's like one of those things where you just had to adapt. Like every other team in the entire tournament was doing it, you had to do it. And then, you know, like I said, I'm so privileged to work with like such veterans, such excuse me, such veterans, such smart people about the game, like Impact and Core, where they know so much about it, like how they even probably experienced like the previous lane swap meta like freaking decade ago.
By the way, obviously you got to play with Impact. The split, he won the MVP. Now, what's funny is most people, if they're teammates of Impact, people are going to think of like it's the perma weak side, and he takes all the losing matchups and he tells people just go gank elsewhere and give all the results. You actually got to see like almost like a Renaissance split where he was having carry games, bro. He was fucking mega.
Yeah.
Like, give me some thoughts on Impact as a player.
I definitely just like one of, if not the GOAT, like top laner in the LCS. I always say it, but him and Core were like such big veteran presences to me when I first came onto the team in 2024 that I don't know, they taught me so much about like not just the game, but like how to conceptualize the game and how to think about the game. And then like 2024 summer when Impact's literally just honestly kind of shitting on everyone. It was just so insane. Like, I was like, fuck, man. Like, after every single scrim game, like, I'd go to him and be like, hey, what do you think about this side lane? Because, of course, you know, us as both side laners, that's primarily, like, what we worked on. But then sometimes he'd even just, like, look at a laning phase of mine and be like, fuck are you doing in this laning phase? You know, he was a very blunt guy about it. Like, I joked about it to others, but, like, Core's, like, you know, the mom of the family, you know, like, kind, will, like, guide you through it and all that stuff. And Impact's just like, what the fuck are you doing here? Just like extremely blunt about it, just doesn't care about your feelings, but like, you know, he's right or has like some validity to what he's saying, and he'll just be very blunt to you about it. So like, I don't know, working with both Impact and Core, like my first year was just honestly just incredible, and like I wouldn't be the player I am today if I didn't get to work with those two.
I feel like coming into the summer split of 2024, if I set the context up, it's even nuts. Like the year before, you just got into the team basically because they had some issues with Harry, and then they temporarily promoted you from the academy team, the challenger team. Then the next year after that, like Quid's the MVP on 100 Thieves. You have Jensen still around in the scene as like a veteran player. You have Jojo's the young talent, etc. If you told someone in any of these splits, in the next split in summer 2024, the all-pro first team mid laner is APA, they'd probably say that's bullshit. There's no way. How would he ever do it with this? Is it a big deal to you that you got to be the first team mid laner for that split? That's a pretty cool accomplishment.
I mean, at the time, it felt very nice. I think like it definitely ended bittersweet, not winning that summer finals. But like definitely at the time, like if you recall just the split before, like I didn't have any All-Pro votes going into the playoffs, and then going from that to like being touted as like the best mid laner in the league, it was, definitely at the time a very nice feeling. But like I said, it fell short. The feeling.
Sure. Well, I mean, listen, that split obviously was brutal because you won every single series except the finals. Like, it was almost essentially like a semi-perfect season. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure right up until the finals, everything must be going great. Like, scrims must be good. The official games are all good. I guess everything, especially because everyone praised the coaches now, it seemed like everything was perfect. Like, what more could you want, right? Even the way the finals went, it's not like those were games that, like there's no, that's like some calculated shit from solo queue. That was some randy ass shit. They didn't even know those fucking minions were going to win. They didn't know that crazy shit with the support went in, like the base. That was like some of the craziest like lightning bolt shit I've ever seen. What did you think?
No, I mean, like, of course, like I've had the horror of being on the wrong side of it, but like looking through like how they all reacted to it, how everyone reacted to it, like no one knew what was happening. Like not even the observers knew into it.
Yes.
Literally, it's like, it's one of those moments where it's like you're watching the old League of Legends, like where the observers just, they just didn't know the game. They were just following whatever they could, and then the game just randomly ends. Like that's literally just what it felt like. Like none of us playing in the moment knew we were going to lose the game until suddenly your screen's drifting towards your Nexus, and you're like, I think there's the footage of me, and I'm literally sitting in my chair in disbelief at what just happened. Because of course in my head, that's like an intense game. We're down a little bit in game 4. Like suddenly we come back. Like we're about to win the game. It's going to go game 5. Like this is going to be such a banger. We're going to have, we're going to be able to win the split. And then your Nexus or your screen just goes whoosh to your Nexus, and it's like, oh, type of moment.
By the way, is what I said accurate? Before the final, did it just seem like we're just going to win the split? Yeah, we're going to win everything. No one can beat us.
We definitely respected Ply, but we also understood that we were the big dogs. Once we had the first series with Fly, because we played them in the upper bracket, and once we won that, we were like, oh, of course we have to play our A game and we have to do everything, but we're definitely, in my opinion, the major favorites going into that finals. So everything was going pretty well. Like, if you remember, EWC was also during that split. Like, it wasn't right after MSI. It was like in between like the regular season. So we came off like a decent EWC, and we're smashing everyone in regular season. We're smashing everyone in playoffs, and of course going into the finals, we're like, I would say like all of us thought we were going to win.
By the way, one thing I'm always interested in, actually, when teams get the rep that they're good at macro, etc., does that mean Team Liquid? Were you a team that like try hard in scrims? Were you one of the ones where you just try like and do the right thing, whether it's like you win the scrim off it or not? What was the culture like in Team Liquid?
Oh, very strict. Like Spawn's definitely a very strict head coach, like very hands-on, like no bullshit type of guy. So like we took all our scrims seriously. Like we had like a no FF rule. Like, if you troll your lane in scrims, like that's your fault. You have to deal with it for the next 30 minutes or however long the game is. And we would always try. No matter what, we had to like find a way to win through any deficit, basically. And if someone had a bad attitude, whether it was like tilt or frustration or whatever it was, like you just got yelled at. Like Spawn would just like countless times Spawn's like, beating me with a belt. And it was definitely like a no-nonsense team.
By the way, along those lines, that's something I actually want to ask about, because Pete, first of all, for some reason for Americans, people just think Aussies are all just super chill and they're just fun guys or whatever. And Spawn himself on camera, I've noticed, it feels to me like he's very different inside a room doing a VOD review than he is on doing the interview. In the interview, he always takes the blame. It's always his fault. He's always super nice to his players and like gives them the space. I get the vibe like this is a guy where he's definitely fucking intense though, right? This is a person you don't want to piss off or fuck up the game. Like, I guess the soft touch isn't there as much in private, right?
I mean, there's definitely no soft touch in private. Like I think he said it before, but like during our games, he would grab a water bottle. If you ever see him holding a water bottle during games, it's because he would slam his fist so hard on the desk. Like when we do something stupid, he like hurt himself.
Okay.
So of course you have to grab a water bottle. So like, it takes the brunt of the damage. And like, You know, there's been numerous times where he's literally punched a wall just because we're like fucking up something so often, so frequently in scrims. You know, like something just isn't going right in scrims, or like he'll yell at us at the top of our lungs, and he doesn't give a fuck. You know, the Team Liquid office I'm currently in is like it's full of office workers, like normal day-to-day people who work here from like all around Team Liquid. He doesn't give a fuck. He would just yell at the top of his lungs, and you know, at the end, like we're in the corner of a building, the other end of the building is hearing him yell at us. He's definitely a very just intense coach. Like, but I come from a definitely very big sports background, and he just reminds me a lot of like my sports coaches who are just like no nonsense guys, like who are gonna be extremely brutal with you, but like they want the best for you.
Now, you know you never catch me dolo online because I'm rolling deep and we dem boys. Who am I talking about? The Scrilluminati. So this video and the content on my channel is kindly supported by Matt Pugnaccio Racula, Thooorin, Jensen Goh, Nikki, Jason, you know who my second in command is, Jerky's Minion. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for some of my content? Would you like to ask me a question in an AMA? Do you want to take part in one of those lengthy discussions where you get to set the topic? Maybe you want to see who upcoming guests are in my interviews and on my talk shows. Well, all of these perks and more are available to you if you put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today. How? Via the Patreon link in the description box below. You dig?